and welcome to the Namaste everybody and welcome to the diabetes program. Today we're going to talk about the diabetes, but Dr. Joshi will be talking about the diabetes. Sorry, my language not very. I'm a bit nervous today, but yes. Dr. Venkata Joshi is a PhD in Ayurveda, has been teaching, practicing Ayurveda since 1988 in the UK. He has been professor in Middlesex University, London. Where am I? Yes, Middlesex University, London, founder of Association of Ayurveda Academy and Integrative Ayurveda Network to the set quality standard of the Ayurveda practice in the UK. Dr. Joshi is also specialized in Ayurvedic and treats number of conditions, including gastrointestinal problems, digestive disorders, chronic illness through the use of the diet, lifestyle, and the food medicine. Dr. Joshi, over to you now.
Namaste to you all. Namaste Benji for introducing me. सभी को नमस्कार. आज हम डायबिटीज के बारे में कुछ जानकारी प्राप्त करते हैं और सभी जानते हैं कि डायबिटीज एक खतरनाक बीमारी है और बढ़ती जा रही है. जैसे पिछले 15 साल में हम देखें तो इसका संख्या यूके में ही डबल हो गया है और रिसेंट आंकड़ा देखे तो सभी हिंदी जानते हैं ना, इंग्लिश में बात करो.
I think most of people know Hindi, but some people don't know Hindi. So.
Yes, I can speak both. Yes, that's good.
Yeah,
so yes, welcome to you all. And then we understand these metabolic disorders like diabetes, such a booming lifestyle disorders now. One which fast growing, and we can see how our childhood obesity induced changes for diabetes in the new generations, younger generations. They are more suffering, and because of this improper diet and lifestyle, that we understand how we have changed over years. And as I mentioned, 15 years past is the double the incidence statistically to see. I think it's 4.9 million people in UK alone, known diabetic people, and then there are 13.6 million people are very much under the risk factors for this diabetes. So Ayurveda में पहला तो आयुर्वेद शुरू होता है त्रयोपस्तंभ, यानी कि that's the three pillars of sub-pillars of Ayurveda, beginning with ahara or food and dietetics. So the food and nutrition dietetics are the biggest subject for Ayurveda from the Sanskrit literature. And if you look into Ayurveda roots of samhitas like Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, Astanga Hrudaya, and which are available, there will be so many scriptures still available sporadically, even though burnt out from the past all big universities like Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramshila, whatsoever is. So the dietetic point of view, to apply the recommendations, something we can group out as a common application. A common application, every time it is a generalized approach, anybody would do. Say, for example, from Ayurveda point of view, considering anything which is general and that is applicable to all. So applicable to children, to applicable to all ages, applicable to different states of health, and also irrespective, we are all different from being normal or being healthy as well, the variations. with our constitutional variations, with our tolerance variations, with our habit variations, with our adaptation variations to cultural variations, so much of variations we have. So in spite of those individual variations, we can apply the regulations and rules of the dietetics of Ayurveda generally for healthy and even for the people who are sick. So this is where we have to target first. And that comes as an approach of a wholesome approach or holistic approach. And that we have to understand at the beginning before we apply specifically individually tailored recommendations. So that is the way, even for the dietetics also in Ayurveda, we have these two different approaches. So first we have to understand generally what is good, what is not good. And by knowing what is not good, and we all know all the junk food and all the different kinds of lifestyle and food habits, what we are doing today is negative for the care and prevention for the diabetes. But considering the incidence of diabetes is also as type 2 diabetes, what we can say non-insulin dependent diabetes, which is more common. And coming from Ayurveda point of view, to consider the duality of diabetes approaches, looking from the people who are obese or overweight, and then or eating habits, erratic eating habits, and putting on weight, and then having this metabolic disorder. One way. And the second way is people are not put on weight, but then still their metabolism go wrong, being lean. So this is the difference we have to understand. So the krusha, which is in Sanskrit saying that emaciated or dhatu kshaya, the strength of the body is depleted, and then the metabolic disorder, or the people who have gained excess of bodily tissues, which is plumpy or opulence or whatever obesity or overweight, we can say. This is the two incidents. For these two people, the approach should be different. So that is the basic we have to understand from Ayurveda point of view. So understanding these energies, for example, Vata, I know Vata predominates into diabetes, as if you know the dosha, but ultimately from the 20 equivalent conditions of pro-diabetic or diabetic prominence in Ayurveda, and we will not go into those details. But understanding that two different things, we understand people who are not put on weight are people with the excess of weight. These are the two distinct approaches. So everything what we do is diabetes, and then we can say it is very good Karela. Then everyone knows about this Karela, isn't it? So we start drinking the Karela juice and so many things, and Karduka juice, and like bottle guard, and this is what Swami Ramdevji's approaches or whatsoever. But one formula cannot fit to all. That we have to understand. And other thing is also considering the even though Kerala is known, but if the Kerala is taken along with vegetable juices as a detox juices, and does it fit to everyone? So that's another approach. So this is important considering the stomach as well, because gut functions are important. So considering whether it is a vata predominating emaciated bodies or the kapha predominating full weight on bodies, and then accordingly you will have a selective approaches. So all the millets which are available as a source material. So you may find so many varieties of the millets here. So you can go on like quinoa to whatnot, amaranth and ragi, and you will know this is kurak and ragi and bajra and so many, and jowar, isn't it? So Penicitum sativum, sorghum vulgare, sorghum. So you can find all the millet flours. So the millet flours are available, millet grains are available, and all the, what does it mean? Like a dry land edible sources. This we have to understand. So the dry land edible sources means like not grown in the waterlogged areas, and seasonal rains or seasonal rains or the tropical belts where the sun is beating high in the lands, and then the grains which are grown, and specifically coming from the all the plants which are like grass like plants. And of course rice grows in the waterlogged areas. That is not the one which is used here, but then the rice does grow even in the dry land rice as well. That is what we say, it is a shastika dhanya. See, 60-day variety or a seasonal, rabi crop or the other crops, and say monsoon crops or the non-monsoon crops. So if you understand that value, whatever the millets comes out from the grass family, and they are all used for diabetic care, but then more for these millets are used for the overweight people and obese people, which will help a lot. For example, in the market, if you go, yes, can you take the background video as it is distracting? Yes, true. That is very, very important things. And how can I take this? I don't know, because I'm very poor in this. Sorry. Yeah, how can I take this? Remove settings or right. Mm, yes. Uh,
What are you looking for, Dr. Joshi?
how, mm, right. Thank you. So yes, when we see, um, yeah, thanks. View, right, right. Yes. So I can type over here in the chat where it is applicable some names to find out. For example, like Kodri. When I typed here, and everybody can see. Yes. So this Kodri is a Kudhanya. Kodri is a Kudhanya Vishesha, and you can find in Gujarati shops as well. But people who are in the terminal stages of the diabetes and people with insulin dependent and in the complications developing, and the food and nutrition is completely because the digestion system is so weak that it cannot really make a sense out of the food. So in those conditions, with the overweight conditions, and we can use that kodri. So the kodri is also a grain which is comes under the millet. But then coming to the point of jowar, for example, jowar is a sorghum, and we can get a white variety, yellow variety, and sorghum flour also available. So for generally this sorghum is very good for diabetes, then I can use the preparations like kasuri methi, isn't it? So kasuri methi is fenugreek, dried aromatic, in the packet you can find kasuri methi, everyone knows about it. So you prepare with the kasuri methi as the preparation from the buttermilk. Buttermilk. So buttermilk is a typical way of making a recipe with the jawar flour and kasuri methi and buttermilk as a main ingredient. And then the spices, basic spices. So what spices do we use not to aggravate the conditions, like the coriander, fresh and dry, and cinnamon, cardamom, bay leaves, and as well as like cumin, turmeric. These are the things, common general curry leaves. So these spices are being used. These spices are being used in the yogurt. Say you make the buttermilk with the allowed available source of the yogurts. So that also you have to check which yogurt is balanced. So I don't see many, like, of course, biopot yogurt and the yogurt which will not be cultured very well in this UK. So think that the yogurt taste is balanced with the sweet and sour. It's not too sweet, it's not too sour. And also equally, it is not having all these bubbly like fermentation process is uneven, and there will be like excess of fluid, too much of fluid and supernatant present, or the yogurt is a little bit of aloe vera kind of sticky consistency. That's not good. So consider the good yogurt. Put that 16 times of water, so 16 parts of water in one part of yogurt, and use the blender, and then whip it for a few minutes until that froth comes out. Like froth mean all this jug. So this is to make the buttermilk with the more number of water added with the spices. So roasted cumin, we use roasted shahi jeera you can use, and turmeric powder you can use, Himalayan pink salt you can use, fresh ginger you can use, whole ginger you can use. And these are the things to make a nice curry leaves we can use. So accordingly, these spices, and in the presence of Himalayan pink salt, and whipping or blending this yogurt in the plenty of water, that is a therapeutic lassi. Therapeutic lassi. So it is not lassi means they will make sweet flavor or salt flavor, but that they just make thick, and that's not the case. So you have to make very thin and interacted with the basic spices. So that buttermilk you use for making the yogurt, jowar flour based recipe as a quick. You don't have to do anything like just boiling in the water and mixing this nice buttermilk, and then cook it for a while with the flavors what you want to have, herbs and spices in it, and serve that hot, and with the kasuri methi, and that will be very tasty. And it's good, quick, nourishing, and metabolically breaking down. That what we are looking in the diabetes is without much strain to the digestive system. The essence should come, and minimize the level of waste is being produced by improper digestion. So digestion system should be corrected. So that is one way as a simple example. But first I will list out the ingredients. Then you can have a multiple levels of preparations what you can make, and what it is available here. So what I said until now is like, say for example, the millets I said. So then you can go and search for many types of millets available in the health food stores, and there is in the South Kensington there is a big organic shop. And then say for example, sometimes you may find like a black rice. They never use that black rice. So black rice is exception. We cannot use in diabetes. And then you can use bamboo rice or other rice, what it is available varieties. So black rice, except black rice. Then what is the rice which is much used in diabetes is the red rice. Red rice. So you can find a raw hand pound red rice here. Raw hand pound red rice. So raw hand pound red rice of different countries. And we have like our students, what we do, and they just Google, and or they just shop and bring the samples of red rice available from French or Spanish or Chinese or Indian, Sri Lankan, which country. So the red rice, when it is too much of hardness and takes longer to cook, excess water, and then more sticky, gluey, and more sweeter in taste, and once it's cooked, that's the quality, three qualities. The sweetness increasing, stickiness increasing, taking time too long for cooking. Then we can say that's the best rice. But this red rice is supplemented for the people who are with the emaciated, like the weaker people, dhatu kshaya, or the vata increased conditions, or the weight is less in them, diabetic conditions. In those people, the red rice suits better, not like people with too much of obesity. So too much of overweight and obesity, we offer go for the different type of millets, and then jowar recipe kind of preparations. But people with emaciated and weight loss and diabetic, and they are gone for this red rice recipes. So what we take accordingly, and that will help into the preparations. And with that, whatever the khichdis or whatever the recipes you are going to make with mung beans, mung beans. So the mung beans we all know, and in the market also mung beans you can find like two different sizes, the bigger and smaller sizes. The smaller size is always which is grown in the dry land mung bean variety. So anything grows in the dry season and dry land, and that will be the lighter and easily metabolizing. And to make it much useful into the diabetes, we can also dry toast any substance naturally available. Why, what I will do, I will recommend that you dry toast them. When you dry toast to the point of aroma coming from any grain, and that makes it more lighter and easy to digest. So before you make any recipes, dry toast them to the aroma finding, like the mung beans, and then use accordingly. So the mung beans are the dicotyledonous split, can split into lentils, but the rice is a monocotyledonous. So these two are essentially mixed in our recipes. The reason why, because of amino acids, the essential amino acids coming from both the sources of these plants are equally important for making our metabolism better. So considering the one part of mung beans, two parts of the red rice, and then making 16 parts of minimum water, and then recipes are prepared out of it. So that is the way the proportions for making any diet. And then accordingly, for example, if the people are with loss of appetite, and then loss of appetite is there and loss of taste is there, then we will have more liquid diet preparations for them. And to induce the taste in the diabetic people, the ginger, of course, but then the ginger, if it is too stronger, what we can do, the ginger can be roasted. Ginger can be grilled. Ginger can be roasted or grilled, secondarily to make it into a cooked part of ginger to crush with the Himalayan pink salt. And you can add any oil texture into it, because the oil texture, and we all know for all the spices, that's the reason we give tadka, because that the exchange of all the therapeutic qualities coming from spices well dissolved, disintegrated in the fatty acids. So suitable oils we select. The neutral oils for making a nice raw chutney of this fresh ginger or baked ginger, blend with the Himalayan pink salt in the olive oil, for example. Then you may have a separate, like for more pitta conditions, burning conditions, coconut oil is being used. For vata conditions, little bit of sesame oil is being used. For kapha conditions, little bit of mustard oil can be used. This you will learn more as you are go on preparing your own making recipes out of a simple formulation. I said only the fresh ginger and Himalayan pink salt in the fatty acid media, blending to the micro particles, like you can use like a coffee blender. Put the oil and then this ginger and Himalayan pink salt to make it a fine paste. So fine thin paste, making breaking down, and that start helping for the people who lost their taste and appetite. So supplementing in the diet, either it is being prepared, cooked food, or liquid diet, and then adding to that, and have that will help your digestion system to open and work better. So another important thing to open the digestion system when the taste and appetite is not working better, I will go to the basic spice like fennel, the fennel seeds. And among the fennel seeds also, you can find two varieties. The bigger variety, Badisom, and then the small variety, Lucknow variety fennel seeds. So the green and thin, sweeter Lucknow variety fennel seeds is more appetizing, is more activating, because we have more than 28 plus enzymes and hormones in the gut, and also from the pancreatic to the bile juices, and so it's an amalgamation of endocrine and exocrine secretions being rectified, controlled over a long period of time when you start using certain appetizers. So this is the best appetizer in any way when we use Lucknow variety fennel seeds to chew or prepare with the food. And that is another basic spice way to open up your digestion system. So we start making digestion better with the identity of the taste. And you can also see when you open any diabetic patient, and in the morning when they get up and see the tongue, if the tongue is clean, pinkish, uniformity, that's fine. But then if it is white and coated, then you understand a lot of toxins are being built in the body. So that you have to break down. So viscous toxicity can be seen over the tongue with the film coated. Then we have to use this ginger Himalayan pink salt based recipes in the texture of the oils supplemented with the food to the Lucknow variety of the fennel, which is the very basic spices. And then the groups of spices will continue from that point, like bay leaves, cardamom, cinnamon as a group of spice. So accordingly, the basic spices, because there's a groups like Trijata, Chaturjata, Panchakola, Trikatu, and Shadushana. These are the names which are used in the Ayurveda. But then simply to understand, the turmeric, cumin seeds, two types of cumin seeds, regular cumin and Shahi Jeera. So those are the spices and selective grains or the millets accordingly. For overweight people, it is going on the millet-based preparations. For underweight people, it's going with the red rice preparations, and then the use of these spices, and accordingly, the buttermilk yogurt preparations. So the first basic food supplement from Ayurveda in general, these are all the in general guidelines only. So for the diabetic people, anybody would take safely with no adversities, and even increased dosages, nothing will happen as a food supplement to take on. And start with the simple things like amla, because we know amla as an important fruit in Ayurveda. Indian gooseberry, Phyllanthus emblica officinalis. So the amla is freshly available, and we have so many countries brought up over here. This amla, why it's important? Because it has all five tastes in it: sweet, sour, pungent, bitter, astringent. All five tastes except salt. So having more number of tastes in any natural product has more healing property. So it's an antioxidant, and then the rich with the vitamin C, healing food, and good for the systems to reduce the waste and waste management, and rejuvenating fruit, good for eyes and color and complexion of the skin, to the digestion, and also the restoration of health. So in many conditions, this is what vitamin C, richness in one fruit to 5,000 international units of vitamin C, just one fruit can give. So this is what vitamin C is given for healing in the conventional medicine also. Post-operative care, then vitamin C for quick healing. So the amla is the best healer. And that is what wear and tear process in our all the tissues being minimized by using this fresh amla, and then equally the fresh turmeric. So we have the fresh turmeric. So turmeric fresh available, fresh amla is available. Then these two become as a fundamental basic combinations. Then you can experiment on this. As I mentioned, if a person is having hands and feet burning sensations, eyes are burning, sleeplessness, and too much of pitta, aggravated conditions, and that is where I will use with the rich coconut butter as a means of making a chutney, blending with it, while using neutral oils like olive oil. So olive oil may be a neutral oil, and then still you can use some sort of um, what are the natural sources of available oils here. Rapeseed oil is available, which grows here, what it is grown here, and you can use, except cardamom oil, which does also grow here, we cannot use it. But then Sesame oil, when you are using to make any chutney recipe, proportion should be less because it can aggravate pitta. So considering the neutral oil at larger quantity, whether it is coming from the heat resistant rapeseed oil or the sunflower oil pure, and then can be used olive oil as a neutral oil, and then rest of the oils like sesame oil, linseed oil, and black seed oil, and coconut oil or butter, and relatively lesser proportions accordingly. So different kind of omega factors we contribute into the making a chutney. Nothing is added there, only fatty acids as a oil seed, oils from these different seed sources blend in the coffee blender. So in the amla, you can take that stone out. The seed is hard, so chop it nicely, and fresh turmeric also, and then put this enough adequate oil mixtures and blend it as a nice chutney. Nothing is added there. This chutney, you can keep it in the fridge to use every time when supplemented with the hot food. And that is the number one recipe for diabetes conditions. It will minimize and reduce the risks of diabetic complications, and it is the best fundamental source of Nishamalaki is the name given for such kind of formulation you can make at home. But then you can also make for the people who are excess of obesity, and as an added value like amla powder is available, and then the turmeric powder is available. These two, both powders can be mixed to use for the additional doses for them as well. So whether it is a fresh based, why? Because fresh is more antioxidant properties, and the richness of these healing properties is more. And we can see antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and then restoratives, rejuvenating properties. They are all coming from this fresh state more. So consider that what it is written in the text. I only used one text here, just to give you some sort of recommendations what it is being given here. Purana Shali, I mentioned sources coming from the old grain. What does it mean by old grain? The old grain in Ayurveda is anything which is after harvest, minimum 1 year is over, then it start getting therapeutically viable. This is the reason old rice is better. So you can start using that old grains more than 1 year, and then maximum 2 years. So that comes like 1 to 2 years is a period of its viability of the grains being selected. Then you can have a different type of the wheat, because this kind of natural wheat like a spelt from Italy, any sources which are natural wheat available from European countries, that's the best thing to use and preparations out of it. And then I mentioned about this 60-day variety of like the mung beans, which are dryland grown grains. And also you can have like a masoor dal, which is another important lentil in the diabetes conditions. So we have mung and masoor. These are the two lentils which are recommended. And then then we have usually what we do when the sesame is being put up for the expression of the oil, the waste of the sesame precipitation, and that is also used in the diabetic care. So it is not the active sesame seeds and then tahini or sesame seed paste and things in diabetes, but it is the oil expressed waste, the solid of the sesame. And that is much used in the recipe preparations. And then coming to the point of um, um, the good butter, but forget about, we don't get a good quality of butter here. And then you have Malabar spinach or water spinach, which is available here under the name in the Gujarati shops as poi. So the poi is Basella alba, Malabar spinach, or the water spinach. And that is the recommended vegetable to prepare different recipes with the masoor dal, whatever the tasty preparations you can make out of that potaki, which is Malabar spinach. And then there's another many varieties of edible amaranth plants are available here. Which grows amaranth vegetable here? Amaranth, amaranth seeds are available. So that way, the amaranth in our Gujarati groceries or the vegetable shops as like Rajgiri kind of vegetable, leafy vegetables. So they are the edible amaranth vegetable sources for making and fresh. And also we cannot get Jivanti, but I haven't seen. But there is an equivalent variety here, Leptadinia reticulata. If someone can find Leptadinia reticulata being traded from India or elsewhere under the name this, it's a vegetable source, it's a twiner, whether it is leaves, twigs, or flowers, that's highly nutritional and restorative. I think that if in Ayurveda, Jivanti Shakanam Srestam, that means number A plus, A3 plus kind of vegetable for healing is Jivanti. So I haven't seen anybody bringing, and it is worth to bring and trade for the diabetic healthcare. It's a wonderful vegetable. I found this in Maharashtra plenty. So Shirdodi in Maharashtra, there is a Shirdodi by name. The flowers are being used. It's very succulent and fleshy and a little bit of latex coming out and sweeter as a spinach variety is a wild twiner. So that's a very important vegetable to bring and to use as a day-to-day consumptions. Another important vegetable, what it is available here is moringa. We all know there's a superfood. Recently, it came out few years back and understood, and it is freshly available here. Murunga, Murunga by name we can find in the Sri Lankan shops and also Gujarati shops, moringa, leafy vegetable, and also the fruits, which you can make nice dal with the pulp, the cooked pulp from these moringa fruits, and inclusive of that seeds present in there. But you cannot just take, people take like a moringa dry seed powder as a supplement, but that doesn't work like that. It will be so pungent, and if you have two varieties, edible variety, Gramya and Vanya, then if it is a wild variety of the moringa seeds, if somebody is selling, it will be so pungent, and that can aggravate the doshas. It's not good for a dietary supplementation. So go for the fresh fruits and then make nice soups and then use that pulp, and also the leafy vegetable which can become very tasty dal and or curry preparations, and you can use that moringa vegetable. And I mentioned about the mung varieties, of course, and then the guduchi. I have seen so many Gujarati and including they are growing inside some guduchi plants in the pots. Amruta, guduchi, Tinospora cardifolia, and the regular consumption of these leaves as a vegetable source, Tinospora cardifolia. Yeah. So that is guduchi is there, Amrutavel, and that is recommended here. And then I mentioned there is another variety of the vegetable which is known as like a katula, a kind of a small, tiny bitter type of hairy fruit. A small. It's like bitter has a ridges bigger, Karela, but then there's a small, tiny, and a similar looking like Karela. There's a katula in Gujarati, and it's also the fruit. And then there's another fruit which is available. Parval, of course, parval is another vegetable which is richly available for the care. And then the all different varieties of the figs are available, fresh figs, which are very important for the diabetic care, and fresh fig fruits. And we can also find the banana flowers. So banana floral recipes, that is, and also banana stem stock, root stock stems are available, and lotus stems also you can find here. So banana and lotus seeds are available here to make into like full makana, as already it is being made, and also you can roast them and use it. And lotus seeds and lotus stems and banana stems and banana flowers, and then the uh, mm, and also like seasonal wood apple are available here seasonally. Wood apple is best chutney preparations out of it we can use. And um, all the bitter vegetable sources we know, bitter vegetables, kale and any bitter vegetables, and they can also be used, recommended in the conditions for day-to-day consumption as a food preparations. So more or less is the one book textual references what it is being written here is a kind of recommendations, and there could be many plenty what it is available. Some say, for example, one of the vegetable source which grows here, nobody uses Chinopodium alba. Chinopodium alba, which grows here as another wild spinach variety. Commonly, it grows everywhere. Chinopodium alba is in Sanskrit known as Vastuka Shakam or Batua in local Hindi name. So Batua, everywhere it grows here, and that's another important vegetable day-to-day consumptions. Then all the bitter vegetables you can count on. And when you see, for example, I mentioned when the digestion system is too weak, and then it is very sensitive in a way, like if it is a little bit of heaviness and then it start running down as loose motions maybe, and so the indigestion maybe, bloatedness maybe. So whatever the digestive weakness, when it is present, the green stuff should be less used in that conditions, not to get bloatedness. So that we have to take care. And yeah, while we make different recipes. So I think we have 15 minutes for interactive sessions. I would like for you to ask questions so that until 8 o'clock we can finish up by answering your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. Yes, I have a first question. My question is how and when do you have the fennel? I know you said chew it. Do you do it after food, or do you do before, or you can do anytime?
Which one? Which one?
The fennel seeds.
The fennel seeds, yes. Fennel seeds hold the day because, say, for example, the issues when I have with my digestion system, elimination system, bloatedness or toxins, it's better to have before lunch.
Before
So the
lunch.
before lunch is always, say, one another important thing is before lunch for correction of digestion system. As I mentioned, one fruit, what it is mentioned here is the fresh figs, isn't it? So
Yes.
the fresh fig fruits or any seasonal small amount of the fruits, when you use a portion of fresh fruits seasonally available, eat before lunch, half an hour before lunch, and that will give you a better digestion system.
Okay.
So consider for the better digestion is always before lunch, and then rest of the thing for correcting the digestion system, you can chew whole day. And say, for example, this Lakuno variety of the fennel seeds to get maximum good benefit of digestion restoration, and you can go up to 50 grams per day to chew.
Excellent.
That's a lot, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is what you can find a better digestion system when you chew in intensive conditions. It doesn't matter. It's like normal spice. It doesn't even aggravate anything. It's very good and tasty as well. Chew it and use it in the food. So 50 grams per day is a maximum dose.
Mm.
Then you
Yeah.
can use to get the optimized results.
Yeah. So people with the constipation, definitely very good for them.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. That is very, very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All can ask irrelevant, what simple question maybe, or your doubts or anything maybe. It's very easy. So don't hesitate. Just ask anything.
Yeah. Anybody wants to ask, you can write in the
Yes.
chat box, or you can ask now.
Yes.
If you can't ask in English, ask in Gujarati, and I will translate it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Anybody? No.
Is castor oil is good for health?
Castor oil, say for example, and same thing. When the castor oil prepared like a homemade castor oil, what's the difference is, the castor seeds, when you crush it well and then boil it, and then the oil start floating on top, and they used to scoop and collect. So it's a traditional made castor oil. Otherwise, these castor oils was available in the pharmacies is a denatured, already deracinated, and it's being filtered. So
Okay.
therapeutic benefits will be less. But
Mm.
when should I use castor oil? Castor oil can be only used once a while to make your system clean when the constipation is affecting a lot and people are constipated. So then the small quantity of the castor oil suitable to make like one or two motions, and then not too much of loose motions until then you can use. So one or two easy motions. How you use the castor oil? Castor oil, you can use it with whole ginger powder. Whole ginger
Yeah,
powder
I
is,
using it with ginger powder. That's why I'm asking you.
yes, whole ginger powder with a hot drink and
Yeah.
small quantity after post meal. Then for easy elimination, once a while, it's not regular.
Okay.
Only in constipated conditions. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you very much.
yeah,
So,
Namaste, Dr. Joshi and group. My name
yeah,
is Meera.
yeah.
I have been having herbal tea made of curry leaves, jeera, and fennel seeds for the past 8 to 9 months every night after food, half an hour after food. Now, I'm a heart patient. Am I okay to have that?
As long as, say, for example, there are so many infusions, they all benefit us. But the thing is, you understand any tea or herbal or green tea, whatever it is, but as long as it does not make you bloated, then it is good for you.
Okay, thank you.
Once it makes acidity, burping, bloatedness, and that is not good, excess. It is not good.
Okay, this is I have it in a very small portion with
Yeah,
a spoon of honey.
yeah,
It's,
no
it's
problem at
only
all.
the mixed powder is only about a quarter teaspoon with the honey every night.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. And another important thing when you mention the tea is, there is a tea by name uh, Iremusu. If you see like Iremusu is a herbal tea, Ayurveda tea. The herb in here is Hemidesmus indica, indicus. Hemidesmus indicus is a Latin name of the root. Very aromatic tea, Iremusu. Iremusu maybe because Sri Lankan trading and it's a Sri Lankan name, but it is the best tea for healing properties. And also for the fresh, for example, if you want to make a fresh tea available here, and you have a jasmine sambak, everywhere it grows. In our backyard, we used to have like a very scented jasmine flowers. The jasmine tendrils, when the new shoots comes out, new shoots coming out, tender leaves and shoots, and those twigs, you make nice tea, and that will be the best healing, along with the rose hips, of course, available rose, different petals, that you can make it as a nice tea,
Yeah,
freshly for these diabetic conditions as well. So
okay.
important, another I have to mention, for example, for example, I mentioned about the wheat from the Italian spelt or whatever the natural wheat, because it's all GM crops. It's not the same wheat what we used to have. Anyway, that's the reason we have like gluten allergies and things coming up. So think that whole wheat, for example, whole wheat and whole barley another important thing. Why? Because the whole barley is another important grain for the overweight and obesity people. So the barley is a rich weight management grain. So whole wheat and whole barley. And then say, for example, everyone knows about the kalonji seeds available here, black seeds. So whole wheat, whole barley, kalonji seeds. And then there are many varieties of edible gums available here. So look for the stores having a different type of edible gums like gum kino, gum karaya, gum katira, gum arabica. And you see, Katira Gond or Karaya Gond or many Gond, or Gond is a the Hindi name for the gums. So even you find some of the Bhutia gums over here as a Bhutia gums known as Kamarkas. Kamarkas is available here. So look for these edible gums, and all edible gums at one part. Another part is kalonji seeds. Third part is the whole barley. And fourth part is the whole wheat. These four ingredients. These four ingredients proportionately all equal. Mix it with 16 times of water to make it as a soup preparation, cooked preparation, and use it. And then a thick soup preparation out of this and filter and drink it. And you can see within 24 hours, the blood sugar levels will be controlled. So that is the wonderful recipe, and it came just as a traditional recipe from Gujarati community only, and I'm sharing with all, many people got benefited out of it. So it's a very edible, nutritious, simple preparation as a thick soup, filtered and drink, and for acute conditions to reduce this diabetic complications, and blood sugar management will be very better.
Is it good for the weight loss as well?
Yeah, that's very, very good. Definitely it is for the obese people and weight loss, and they can use it. It has a very good, tremendous results. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Does it have
The weight
a,
loss always, barley is always good for weight loss. Yes.
does it interact with warfarin medication, but blood thinner?
Only if the kalonji kind of seeds may be too strong, then other things may not interact. Yes. So
Okay.
yeah, that if the blood thinning, I don't think it's rapidly blood thinning, any effects are there, but still, I
Okay.
would say
Thank
the
you.
black seed is stronger. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And yes. And another important thing for diabetes conditions, as I mentioned, for the people who are losing their weight and thinner, and then having these metabolic disorders and more vata increased conditions and sleeplessness, dryness, and loss of energy, and require a good amount of glucose being burnt. So this is very important to consider the way the energy requirement is there. Ayurveda never said that for diabetic people, honey is bad. Honey is very good for diabetic people. So it's not for the overweight and the excess of, obese people. Of course, that's also good for honey. You can use that also in both the conditions. But the honey should be not pasteurized. It is
Yeah.
cold pressed, organic, cold pressed, natural, whatever the wild forest, and you can see like some Portugal bitter honeys are there. So you have to go for these honeys as a supplementation for the quick energy to build up, and it will not pile up the blood sugar levels. That's another important thing from Ayurveda point of view, how honey can be used in Ayurveda, but not like in the hot drink and you put the honey to drink. That's not the way. You have to consume along with the meal and separately rather than mixing into any hot food. So that will help a lot for maintenance of blood sugar levels, for the energy levels, because you can see that the diabetes standards, when they set from international scientific forums, and they have different opinions about understanding that whether it is 6.7 or the 9 point, whatever the ranges, when the 4.6 below or over, So when they check these normal values, it's fluctuating data. Why these fluctuations are coming up and recommendations from different societies? Because if the Vata person getting a diabetes and a emaciated person getting a diabetes, he requires more blood sugar being burnt out by the glucogenesis, because he requires more energy very quickly. And that's the reason sweetness is recommended for him. So the sweetness coming from the red rice, sweetness coming from this honey, and that is sweetness coming from this green mung beans or other any sources what we mentioned here. So anyway, so that is what the variations from the data it is suggesting, that the individual requirements of the blood sugars to maintain for their basic levels. Otherwise, ketoacidosis takes place, or the fats getting converted into glucose, and then they are losing body weight, and their weight is reducing significantly rapidly in the diabetes, and then the complications develop. So that should not occur. That's the reason why the honey is recommended in Ayurveda. Yeah.
So my question is, the people who have a thyroid
Yeah.
and like they're developing the blood sugar as well. So how they can do, like, for example, we've been told not to eat spinach. So what is that combination cause?
Yeah, for the thyroid conditions, again the thyroxine hormone as an important thing. Most of the people have these issues with thyroid stimulating hormone imbalances coming through from this central axis of the brain. So whatever it is, and it's very important to see whether with the diabetes or without diabetes, to activate and boost the metabolic restorations. Metabolic restoration in Ayurveda is centered around with the energy breaking systems, like energy building systems. So for all energy building systems, the digestion restoration is very, very important. So Ayurveda recommends, we have as I mentioned, like spice groups, and then we have mentioned about the different sweet and sour fruits. For example, like we get kokum dry and kokum wet and kokum fresh. These are all the Garcinia indica as a metabolic restorative. So we select like wood apple I mentioned here. So what is the sweet and sour taste based fruits and natural sources like rhubarb available here. So those things we select, we interact with the suitable sweet media in the salt and spice mixture as a metabolic boosters. So that will help a lot for the thyroid conditions. So if the diabetes is not there, yes, if the diabetes is not there, that the old tamarind and old kitul jaggery, and that makes into a basic configuration for many recipes to boost up our metabolic pathways. So we need to make that energy.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any question? No? Nehaji, are you still there? Do you want to ask anything or add anything?
No, I'm all here. I've been listening, a wonderful discussion. And we are running out of time, but we can hear a lot, Dr. Joshi ji, all the time. But I think it's a matter of practicing what he just have mentioned, all the food in combination. So put it in the practice and start seeing the results. So we are running these regular sessions. We would love to hear what combinations you have tried and how it's making you feel. So thank you very much, Dr. Joshi, for taking your time out and starting a wonderful session on the food and food which helps us to beat diabetes. This is very important because half of the time we're very confused what to eat and what not to eat. Does it increase my sugar? Am I allowed to eat this? So this is very nice and very precise that this all we can find here. And rather than supplements and everything else, this food only can help us to reduce a lot of complications. So thank you very much again. And thank you everybody for joining. So every Tuesday evening, same time, we'll be having diabetes support group. Again, for all your questions, all our confusions, and make sure that diabetes doesn't take over, but we take care of our diabetes. And then tomorrow, once again, we'll be having the meet and greet. So same time, but different ID. I'm sure you all have the information. So meet and greet talking about the energies tomorrow. So I look forward to seeing you everybody. And thank you again, Dr. Joshi ji.
Thank you, Prabhu Shaji. I met you in Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, and then wonderful to see.